a harder time.
Well, and Boger's had a really hard time doing exactly what they're asking him to do with this comp, with this formation of players for the last couple weeks, right? He was talking to Lemon Kiwi in one of her awesome post-game interviews, and he was like, "We're done losing, right? We're not going to lose," and that confidence is great to see from your main tank. But you've also got to have the team and yourself to perform when you're here, and it's only empty threats at this point, right? You're down 0-2. What you're saying out there needs to ring true at some point, and Boger, that's you're talking, some high game, but you got to perform.
At a certain point, they know you're bluffing. So Revival, hoping not to bluff, hoping to find some real results with Epps on this honor, running the GOATS composition with Apply on the D.Va this time around. Usually there's Zarya player, so again, going to need a bit of time for everything to solidify, and that quick kill is going to mean a fast reset for Revival.
If it wasn't for that sleep dart, things would have been even worse for Revival. That Tesla cannon would have been able to tickle down enough of a Revival to make them hurt on their way back to spawn. And Revival's hurting a little bit right now on the attack. Already used a minute for that attack, so Triumph have to repel 3 or 4 more goes, and Lynx already has that EMP. So Epps has the nano, and if Epps positions himself correctly, he should be able to nano whoever he needs to save from the upcoming EMP from Lynx.
And depending on who starts performing well, it could be Boger, it could be Hardest, get him the last couple of % up to that graph, since Triumph are running just the Lucio.
We got Decod in at the top side using that Primal Rage, but he's going to be slept, so he's not going to be able to cause as much discord as he would have liked in the back line. But Icy, who has had himself a game, we've been talking so much about what we're not seeing from Revival. We could talk about what we're seeing from Triumph, and that's Icy, who was on Hog Ruler earlier, and even just now getting that initial pick. But Tivik, though, going to make things interesting, but a huge bio coming in from Triumph. Awkward is going to color 3 members of Revival purple, but Chopped only getting the single pick. That seems to be enough for Revival to reset.
Yeah, sometimes you only need one, and Triumph not needing the graph either to get things done. That's a really unfortunate waste of a nano as well. Boger forced to back off there, not really able to extend any further because of that early loss of Tivik. And Triumph right now playing with a lot of confidence, good positioning. Here we see Decod's already charged 65% up to get another Primal, and such a good stalling ultimate, as well as a great way to isolate the backline.
Boger gets stunned out of that Earth Shatter as well, so Triumph is going to feel really good about this next engage, as all Revival has right now is an Apply Self-Destruct. The rally is alright in this situation, but how much is it actually going to matter in this engagement here coming in from them? Is Icy going to get another initial pick? That first blood going to fall Icy's way. This is a 65 now for Triumph, and with these overshields from the sound barrier, they're looking pretty good. Decod gets another pick. Samito, the only one that was in danger zone when it comes to HP, but all 6 members survived this push from Revival, who are down to less than a minute.
And these bio nades have been money from Awkward. Already going to have another nano. That's fine and dandy and amazing, but I feel that Triumph right now is just really taking advantage of the fact that Revival don't have a particularly practiced D.Va player on their side. With all of the nerfs that have hit D.Va recently, you have to be extremely judicious with that Matrix usage, and not only are you going to be looking to eat any projectiles, you've got to look to eat those bio nades, and Revival have been taking so many early hits with the anti-nade, it makes it hard for them to maintain momentum.
Decod's going to get the nano, he's going to get stunned out, but he's going to go ahead and use the Primal at the end of it. Icy once again gets another first blood, this time with the Self-Destruct. This Primal Rage should be pushing Revival off at the point with 2 less members than at Triumph. Revival are not looking like they're going to be able to capture any progress on this map either. They're going to need something huge coming in, and that's exactly how you start that. Paintbrush with a nice boot onto Decod, who's getting a little overconfident, if I say so myself. Going to get booted off of the map. The Earthshatter goes through, but Revival's going to be colored purple. Apply's going to be the one that's going to be most dangerously low, but he's going to survive. His mech does as well. Right now, Triumph actually at a disadvantage because they've used everything that they could in this engage. Revival also now getting that pick means that they have that 6-man advantage. Lynx is gonna need to get to this EMP if they want to compete on this first point.
They need to compete here. Chop, though, very close to the sound barrier. He could buy his team so much more time. They don't even have 2 ticks. Revival need to keep this going, but they're all EMP to 5-man coming in from Lynx.
Oh, Decod's going to do a little bit of slipping and sliding, it looks like, to get that pin onto that Moira. He's going to get pinned and hit himself. Boger, though, still very low. One hammer should be it. Decod going to get taken, or Boger going to be taken full by a Decod. It's still going to both ways right now on the objective. It's going to get a nice whip shot kill, but right now Revival still having the man advantage. Paintbrush showing up on that kill feed is going to feel good for them, but Revival finally stabilizing, finally getting control here on the point, but man, it did not feel good, right?
It was a battle. Revival clawing their way through Triumph's defense the entire time. They really didn't feel comfortable at any point. And oh no, talking about getting overconfident, Hardest, he's a Tracer, he's gonna be fine, but eats a Fire Strike from Decod, whose death was the open door for Revival to get onto that point. You're so far away on Nimbani first when you're the defenders that any pick could spell doom, and Revival were able to push that advantage, but again, it was not them taking it to Triumph, it was Triumph gifting them an unforced error.
Triumph now gonna lose a little bit of HP on it there. Lucio, the hack's gonna go in and do the backline. Vic's gonna be the one that's gonna be losing his shield just for the time being, but Apply getting a nice kill on the 2 chops, so this should be momentum still on the side of Revival as they add another pick.
And this is really good, bodes very well for their later fights as well. Once you're past Street phase, once you're past point B, because if Revival continue to press this advantage and find those staggered picks, they can save the Galactic Dragons, that Grav Dragon Strike combo for the 3rd point to clear things, because again, Triumph not running a Zenyatta here.
Has a really great stagger going on to Link, so it's going to take a little while for them to come back. Are they even going to compete here? Doesn't look like they will. They're going to put all of their marbles on 3rd of Nimbani. Triumph coming up on some ultimates. You've got Decod with that Earth Shadow. You've got Awkward with that Nano. Looking on the other side, Apply is already going to get that initial pick on it to Chopped. And this is what I mean. The last push didn't feel good going into A, but this feels good, right? This feels controlled. This feels intentional, right? And it's Revival taking matters into their own hands and pushing advantages. It's something that we haven't seen all series so far, and it's great to see it now, especially when they have such a distinct ultimate advantage like they do at the current time. We're going to see that Nano go through. So is the Earth Shadow. Really good angle on that from Decod. That should stop Revival for the time being. A ton of Revival is low, but they're going to go ahead and invest those ultimates. They're going to use the Dragaton combo. The Galactic Dragons are going to feast on a Triumph. 4 kills for them. When you're at a man disadvantage and you've got that combo, go ahead and just throw it out, right? All you need is 2, I guess.
Yeah, or 4, apparently, if you're Apply. He killed 5, 6 of that team by himself, but Triumph do have this sound barrier. Revival can't relax right now. They've used the grab.
Artist, though, going to get that initial pick. This is momentum on Revival's side. Again, this feels so much better than the rest of their Nimbani so far. Triumph having a very hard time stabilizing here ever since that first point, and they're still struggling to stop this payload. Whenever you see that Wrecking Ball just do circles around the objective, you know it is desperation time. So they're going to get that final blow onto that hand, and maybe Tavik just needed to go to brick jail for a match.
Apparently,
right?
and remember how amazing it was, right?
to
3 squares
DPS.
a day, right? I just mouse 1 and W. This, even though we're not seeing every DPS player that Revival has on DPS necessarily, that's how you find value. That's how you find value. It's not about quantity, it's about quality, and not making any kind of statement about the quality of these players, but you can tell that Revival were giving the resources to Apply. They were making space. They were working around the Hanzo Zarya combo. And that's really what they needed against Triumph, who had Icy on the Diva, and definitely a case where you're like, what even is the use of Diva today, right? Where her value, you're not really finding it against the composition that Revival are. Right, exactly. Are you going to do Matrix Grav and Dragon Strike?
And Bionade.
And the volleys, right?
You just gotta eat it all. That easy for it.
Just eat it. Just eat it.
Triumph and Revival now going to go ahead and stop that. Triumph and Revival now going to be approaching this time the attack of Triumph. And I 76 on with Awkward is probably not going to happen, but I like the idea. You can run 76 on this first part of the map as a little factoid we probably won't see, but if we do, it's a totally legitimate thing that you can do on this first point. There's so much high ground that the 76 can work with. It used to be very popular at the advent of Goats. Before Goats was Goats, remember it was Cushion the Cowboy with the McCree and the 76 just on this map, though.
I mean, if you're very old, you remember when Envious ran Harry Hook with 76 on Nimbani, but that's neither here nor
there was a hot minute where our supports played 76 there.
Right. Well, I mean, mostly Harry. That's just the Envious fanboy coming out here. But Triumph, they're going to be running a very familiar look. Lynx on the Sombra, Awkward on the Honor. Revival going with something very unique again, tapping into that single main tank with Boger on the Orisa. And this is where this could actually work very, very well. He doesn't have to hold the point and get assaulted from all angles. He has DPS on the defense who can already set up these crossfires and exploit those angles, so Triumph takes a ton of damage every time they step onto the point.
Apply can isolate whoever is the most vulnerable from a Triumph just with the hack. Whoever is doing more DPS, hardest work to Vic, they can call on the Sombra to confirm those kills, and right now it's starting to work. Supply is going to get that kill onto Decod. Lynx very low as well.
Triumph, when they're running Decod and Icy together, and sometimes maybe you only need Icy Man alive. What was I just saying about Divas not finding a ton of value?
Revival's going to find a little bit more value from getting those initial picks. Awkward will be the final one to fall. Icy's taking a nap on point, actually. And this is a big deal for Triumph, because that is potentially some point presence that Revival has not started to contest just yet. So that's 2 picks over for Triumph here, because there was a Diva who happened to be sleeping on the objective and no one else was around it. Vic going to use that Rocket Barrage, not really finding much from it, but Decod has spent more time in spawn than developing anything from this monkey so far.
2 ticks, though, not bad. Even though Icy wasn't accruing point presence that entire time, Revival left him alive, which gave them a really big opening. You saw how Decod came back in when Revival wasn't expecting that dive, and that's the scary thing. Revival has no mobility. There's no way for them to quickly jump on top of Triumph and push them back outside of outright killing.
He goes through. Not a ton of people hacked, though. Let's see if Lynx is going to have a bigger one from his EMP. The overshields have already gone down. He's going to go ahead and use that EMP. 4 members of Revival are hacked. This is the opening that Triumph has been waiting for so far here in the body, but hardest with a return kill on the Diva is going to make it a little bit harder for Triumph, but Decod finally getting that Primal Rage. Should be pushing Revival all around the objective. People should be isolated. They should be getting picked off, and Triumph is doing just that. They will be getting this first point.
Primal's really strong ultimate against the stationary composition that Revival were running. When you're relying on those sightlines, when you're relying on the crossfire to find those picks, any kind of displacement, spells doom for your composition. You're no longer able, if you're an Ana, to heal up your Orisa. If you're an Ashe, you can't find the sightlines onto the vulnerable members on the point. So Triumph right here, despite getting rebuffed a couple of times early on, still rolling and sticking with it, although they are going to put Smeedo on the Hanzo as well. No Zarya here. It's going to be pure arrow shenanigans.
Clyde's going to get free with his EMP, but so far Sammytail only finding the casualty of this fight so far, and that seems to be a common thing when it comes to Revival versus Triumph so far. We'll get into more detail about that after this fight, as Decod going to find Epps into the back line, and Triumph have stabilized. They've done more than stabilize. They've gotten the momentum on their side, but Revival tends to lose members after the EMP.
They don't have a great system just yet to react to those EMPs. It could definitely be due to the fact that they've had a lot of moving parts to deal with for the last few weeks. Looks like they're going to try and contest this point B.
They're going to go ahead and do it, but a ton of Revival are already low. Hardest is going to fall really early on. Decod still using the Primal Rage. The Brig also finding herself in a precarious situation, but it's going to be able to survive. EMP goes through. Fly is hacked and is so very low. Awkward's going to finish that off. Vic's going to be the next to fall. No rally for you, as Triumph should be grabbing this point.
I love Decod taking a nap behind enemy lines. Wakes up eventually to pincer them from behind. Unintentional synergy. But that has, when it is intentional, been what Triumph have been trading on against Revival, who are going to swap Epps onto the Moira, make him a little less vulnerable to Lynx. He goes down to Hardest. I don't think that's going to stop up Triumph's momentum very much, though. He was only 30% to the EMP. They weren't going to be relying on that to open things up.
Sammytail's going to use the Dragon Strike along with the Self-Destruct. I like that. It causes so much discombobulation that you're avoiding the Dragon Strike one day, but you're going to fall victim to the Self-Destruct on another. Applying to Vic, though, going to try to even things up here during this fight, as Triumph had lost 2 members. Vic is hacked and is so very low. Hardest is able to throw the grab before falling, but it's on the payload, so even though they're grabbed up in that unwilling head, they still were making progress, and Triumph going to continue their momentum here into the very end stages of the fight.
Oh, that's hilarious. That is just a hilarious image. 3 people stuck to the cart. Even if they didn't want to move it, well, you're going to find some distance. Triumph now have another opener. Lynx does have EMP this time around, but Revival could preempt him. This is kind of what you do when you're battling Sombra v Sombra.
EMP goes through. Decod and Chop are the ones that are hacked. They're the ones on the ground as well. EMP is going to be bigger coming from Lynx. And the first initial picks now for Triumph. The 64 for them. They've got 2.5 minutes on the clock. They are beating Revival's time so far. Revival walks through Street and third, but so is Triumph. Apply, though, going to try to trigger at least a fight here on the objective, which does not happen. Triumph also complete Nambani. Revival will be attacking first.
Something really interesting that Lynx does with his EMPs is he's almost always a win more type of EMPing Sombra. It doesn't usually open up fights with big EMPs. Triumph collapses upon Revival. Often, especially in the later stages of that last round, we see him saving it, waiting for the better, juicier opportunity when Revival drop the EMP first. And that's not something that we see be successful as often with teams, because it's just that much more finicky. When you can control the tempo, when you can control who and when you engage on, you can find a lot of value from EMP. Everybody's set up, they know exactly who they're going to be diving, but Triumph have been able to eke a ton of value from the Sombra that EMP second.
Well, and so I think there's definitely a little bit of that, but coming over from Revival as well applies just EMP first a lot, right? And Revival is expecting, I think anytime like I throw my translocator out at EMP, it's gonna be 6-man, right? But really, I hit nobody. And so what Apply's doing is going in there, he gets 2 hacks, gets 3. Remember, it's not about getting 6-man all the time, because, you know, single grabs can work, but I think everyone comes in and tries to get those kills after that Apply EMP that could be better, so everyone is way more vulnerable to the other EMP coming their way, coming in from Lynx.
Revival doesn't seem to be able to just collapse on the victims on this Triumph quickly enough to make usage of the EMP, and indeed they're going to be running Moira Goats for their attack. Only 60 seconds, so not a bad choice at all. Moira can get a coalescence within a fight, and using that early burst of damage can take Triumph off guard.
Decod gonna get stunned. He's gonna be so very low, but the healing is there. Thank goodness. This gave you at 64 HP. Dropped a little bit below that at times, actually. Triumph and Revival have already met each other on the objective. Revival doing a little bit more. They have such a good point presence, but we haven't said about Revival so far. This is the first team comp that they've truly run that has been effective against Triumph so far, and that's continuing to be effective. The triple DPS wasn't there, so why don't we go back to tried and true, and it has been working as the 4th point is online for Revival.
And they now have some insurance policies against getting stopped up in Streets phase. Boger very close to Earth Shatter. They're going to have Coalescence. They're going to have Rally. And Triumph potentially expecting them to come out with a heavier DPS composition, because Decod's Winston is excellent, but has an intrinsic weakness against Brigitte, who can stun him in place, whereupon Revival can just destroy him, which is what happened twice in a row.
He's going to continue on this Winston, maybe looking for that primal with the shield bash, along with Paintbrush and his displacement. It can be hard for him to find that value. Is Vic going to use that rally to try to assert his team with a little bit more value, but the EMP comes through, and a bunch of people from Revival are hacked, but S was able to get that Coalescence off because everyone from Revival is nice and healthy, so no kills coming in for Triumph after that EMP. The Graviton Surge is next. F's is going to find that Vic. There's a 65 for Revival. This push is not over yet, folks. Decod trying his best, is going to push that Earth Shatter away so it doesn't find any value, but the charge is going to keep him on the map. Good heads up play coming in from Boger, as Decod unable to do anything with that Primal Rage other than be annoying to Boger, but didn't stall enough time for Triumph to come back at full power. The answer is yes, but their HP is starting to suffer, and without their Brig, without their Winston, this is probably going to be more progress from Revival. It might be the 5th point even.
Lynx had a great EMP. He hit Hardest, who was target number 1. He had grab. Triumph should have done everything they could to take that Zarya down, because Chopped was still very far away from that sound barrier. Fortunately, Revival, also recognizing who their most valued possession was in that fight, kept Hardest alive, and when the grab did drop, Triumph came up empty in terms of a defensive ultimates. They do have a great shot here, though. Lynx has the EMP. Revival themselves without the deadly grab.
Boger to Vic have those ultimates. Paintbrush getting very, very close to his as well. The EMP only going to hit 3 to Vic is a stun. Boger going to shatter. Decod only one on the ground. Overshield save everyone except for Lynx. Triumph and Revival going to be toe-to-toe here on the objective. This is all extra right now for Revival. They've been able to get 2 picks, 2 points so far here on their extra push. Icy, though, going to get that self-destruct kill. It's actually been a quiet second go-round for Icy, who was getting first blood time and time again. But since Revival is switching their comp to the tried and true so far, they've found a lot more success. They're losing this fight here, but not before getting 2 extra points with way less time than Triumph in their time bank. Triumph have a lot of distance to make up.
They have the time to do it, but they're going to be a little bit disheartened after Revival was able to make so much distance with a paltry time bank. And unfortunately, it was kind of, Revival, unless they pulled the trigger first, unless they got an early bomb kill, it was probably unlikely that they were going to win against what Triumph was bringing to the table. It's so hard to react to the EMP. So they should be very happy with how much distance they've made and the adjustments that they've made against Triumph.
And what stinks for Triumph now is they're probably feeling very confident about, going against triple DPS, but now they don't know what they're going to run. And on the defensive side, that's going to hurt. But continuing on through this series, the mind games, that hero chess, the rock, paper, scissors that we see is going to be a lot harder for Triumph to play, as Revival have shown themselves to be a little bit more versatile. I'd actually love for them to keep on this comp because it's the only time they've found success so far. They're going to be trying something different on the defensive side.
It's both more and less predictable, exactly what they were running on their initial defense that Triumph easily dismantled. But maybe the mind games are getting to Triumph. They're showing an Orisa Hog look to start things off, potentially expecting a lot of tanks that they can displace with the halt and the hook that they can hack up. But Revival going to be staying with the triple DPS composition. There's a quick about phase. So Triumph are absolutely swapping things up. Icy picking up the D.Va. Great way to keep Tvik cooped up when he wants to be reigning free. These are all great adaptations that Triumph are showing here. Oh, investing in quite a bit of one-shot kill heroes. Lynx on the Widow and Smeeto on the Hanzo.
Well, they want to push through this shield. When you're running the double sniper like this, you're going to try to get people who are peeking, but you can push through that HP of Boger's shield, and whoever's behind it when it falls is up for the pickings, as well as being able to get those halt into headshot combos. Is Icy going to find that initial pick apply, though? On the other side, going to take Lynx down. That's going to keep a lot of the map more open for Revival here on this defense, not having to worry about where this Widowmaker is. Right now, this is in Revival's hands.
That was a must pick. They had to stop up Triumph and pick up that Mercy because the res was unavailable for Revival, and Triumph could have continued to push forward and take more space if they had not lost their Mercy so early. Big anti here from Eps too. Triumph getting their momentum stopped up, and this is one of the difficulties of pushing through this kind of choke, is that your snipers are going to be rather cooped up and in very predictable spots.
Tvik, though, gonna fall. Hardest, though, gonna take revenge for his fallen comrade. Paintbrush able to get the res off, and that's big for Revival, as they now have a potential EMP into barrage combo. We've seen that be very effective in the past, but it's all about actually getting it done. Lynx getting that pick onto Tvik means that it won't be done. Apply using the EMP just before dying. So the interesting thing here is even though Revival's still in it this fight, using the EMP there might have dire consequences a little bit later if Triumph are able to take this point. We'll talk about that in a bit. Revival now going to be investing all of their ultimates to try to stay alive here, but Icy getting that nice hook onto the Ana is going to make it very difficult.
Right now, Icy putting the team on his back right here. The only one who's really been getting a ton done here on the objective. Oh, what a hook, though. Icy seems to land every single one of these, and it doesn't matter how squirrely you are. Once the pig has you in his sights, you are dead to rights. Icy again, single-handedly keeping Triumph in this push. And just like you said, Boop, Revival using their ultimates as they get them, desperately trying to find room to take a breath against Triumph. They have cut them down to an overtime push, though. So both Revival only needs a single clean fight, wipe all the presence off of this cart in order to go up 1-2 against Triumph. So that's going to be hard with this May.
Charger comes through from Triumph. They have the extra damage. They've got the Maywall that's funneling Revival into one choke, but unfortunately no one from Triumph could take advantage of the positioning that Revival was in. Icy was popping off on the last point. Another really great hook. It's going to bring the Reinhardt into his team, but it's actually going to spell doom for Lynx. got to get the res at this point. Are you going to be able to cover the body if you're Revival? Right now, the EMP is going to make it much harder. Is Icy going to have to use the whole hog to potentially give Samito the ability to get res? Boger is going to get healed up, though. Icy can't do everything, though. Triumph needs to help him out. Deepod's gonna fall. Icy's still alive. The Bionic Grenade onto Icy's definitely gonna help. The Shatter is there. Revival is also there. Apply and Boger getting those picks. But Triumph still fighting for their lives.
Oh man, last second nano to keep Icy up. We do not want this pig to melt against the heat of Revival. Man, that fight went way longer than it should have. Revival had some beautiful opportunity to shut things down, but Awkward comes in just at the nick of time to keep Icy in this fight. And while that's all and well to have a pig that is popping off, you do need a bit more production from the rest of your members. Lynx probably, though, will get the Blizzard within this next fight, and Revival gotta watch out. They don't have a diva here, so the whole hog is gonna land. This Blizzard is going to land.
The unfortunate thing for Revival here is that every time Icy throws his hook, it almost feels like he's going to grab someone, but Awkward is going to fall very early on. Lynx is going to go ahead and throw that Blizzard. This could be enough for them as Paintbrush is going to be frozen. So is Boger, and he's nanoed right now, so he's not going to find any value out of that. And Triumph are going to continue on here. They are also going to get that 5th point.
Awkward, probably going to swap off of the Hammond at this point. And Triumph, they're salivating at the thought of taking this entire series. They are so incredibly close. They have whole hog ready. Revival, though, have EMP, and EMP into grab is the ultimate tool against what Triumph are running here.
Apply needs this EMP to be big. The Graviton Surge is definitely going to help. His hardest is going to throw it out. Apply uses the EMP. 4 members of Triumph are hacked, but none of them are taking any damage for the time being. Actually, Revival are the ones that are going to find themselves going back to spawn. Boger trying to even things up. We're playing a little bit of Ring Around the Rosie on the payload right now. Is going to take Icy's attention away from everyone else, and actually using that whole hog into the backline might have been a better idea for Icy's. Revival are slowly but surely pulling this one back, but another pick coming in from Decon is going to keep Triumph ahead in terms of numbers.
Anti-nade in here, doesn't manage to find anybody, and the Blizzard is going to be the nail in the coffin here. Revival no longer with any resources. Beyblade, this is not 2016, my friends. Unfortunately, Revival will fall to Triumph. 0-3 as Triumph take Nimbani in style.
It's a brutal loss for Revival because things were happening, things were a-going, and the last thing they needed to do was stop them one time after getting them into overtime on point A. They did everything right at that point in time, but in the end, Icy, I think, was the difference. Yes, the hooks get some setup. Yes, the Blizzards were there, but we got to see him hook a Sombra and a Tracer, one right after another, and that's pretty impressive.
I mean, he's been hooking Pharas, hooking Mercies all game long. One of the reasons why Revival wasn't able to get a ton done with their pharmacy, even with Tavik on the Phara. There were some sketch moments, though, for Triumph. Icy trying to whole hog Boger's Hammond rather than taking the easier, slightly more guaranteed pick of Epps in the backline caused him to die, and that could have been the end of Triumph's push, but they ended up being able to overcome. That was a very risky spot, though.
I'm pretty sure a Hammond that's playing Ring Around the Rosie around any objective is a universal taunt. Right? It's just like, look at me, I'm doing something, right? And everyone does. We all do it. I've seen it from Grandmasters all the way down to Bronze. The spinning Hammond is someone that you have to pay attention to, because if you're not careful, he's going to knock you into a place where you can get headshot. He's going to knock you away to where you lose line of sight, right? He killed the Brig, but this time around, it almost helped them out, that universal taunt, but Triumph were able to bring it in the end. That Blizzard at the very end came in just in time. If that Blizzard wasn't there, it would have been a little bit more interesting there at the end. More interesting than a 6-5 scoreline here in Nimbani, which you don't see every day, my friends. And that means Triumph is going to take this series 3-0, but we still have one more map to go. Revival, though, is starting to feel it. I'm liking what I see. I like the GOAT's look, even though Tavik was on break, and that feels weird, but it's still, and Apply was on Diva, but it still was the most successful comp that they've run so far today.
One fight's a one fight, man, right? And even though we have gotten very used to the GOAT's meta, it's still extremely effective given the right circumstances, especially against what Triumph were trying to defend with. You got a Winston, poor Decod feeding himself into Revival time and time again. It's just something that happens. Brigidas naturally repel Winstons like oil and water.
Just like those boops from those Lucios, right? How many Winstons we see jumping over the top and then get booped away?
Booped into their backline.
Yeah, booped
right?
into their backline, booped off of the map. And displacement is just one of those things that when you see it, it's very obvious. But when you're not thinking about it, right? You're like, oh yeah, the boop. I forgot how that could straight up kill me.
Yep. So, Revival here showing signs, definite signs of life, and showing some good flexibility as well, but Triumph definitely with the hotter team-oriented hand.
I would agree with that. I think Revival, on this comp that you're seeing them now, even though we're seeing them, the Galactic Dragons, that was a nice comeback.
Insane,
that was great, but the comp that they're running there, Apply can be running whatever he wants, really, with everyone else on those same heroes, forces you to play more like a team, right? And I think that's what they needed going into this, because it was like everyone was trying to do their own thing. There wasn't a ton of just team-oriented play, which has been a theme throughout the entire season. In a lot of their games, when things are going wrong, it's because it's just they're not playing connected. They're not inherently trusting each other. And throughout this map specifically, we got to see some of that, but we also need to see Apply find more value out of those EMPs. I think Lynx, even though I don't think he's that much better of a Sombra, the EMPs were definitely better coming in from Triumph. But once again, Revival came off of this comp. That's when they found themselves some success.
Yep, the Moira look was actually very successful for Revival. It shut down a lot of those vulnerable holes. When you think you've got a tank in your sight, suddenly Moira pops Coalescence and you're all in. Suddenly doesn't feel like a great plan anymore against all of that healing and damage. So Revival with some bright spots. And I'm actually liking, the flexibility shown here. Apply picking up the D.Va. That's not a hero that we've seen him on very often, if at all, in the past. And if they're not running that D.Va, well, put him on any hero, any pointy, pokey hero. Widows, Hanzos, it's going to be having a ball.
A pointy, pokey hero. That is what we like to call in the business, professional terms, right?
Yes, the pointy pokey.
Yeah, it's the scientific term of DPS.
Yeah, pointy pokey is not my personal favorite. I like the chunky standy kind. Yeah, I've heard them referred to as tanks.
All right. Whatever goes on in your head, I'd be really interested to see what that looks like.
I think you'll be disappointed.
It's a little bit alarming sometimes. As we come into Havana, we saw a very, very fast Havana a little earlier today. I think it would be up there for fastest Havanas I've ever seen. But let's see if Triumph and Revival are going to be able to match that type of tempo, or are we going to see what happened to Wavecheck? Or it might have been during the Envy game, someone was stopped here at spawn for almost all of the entirety of the clock for this first initial point, as Revival going to be attacking first.
Triumph picking up the Ana Goats comp. Always very good all-around composition, and Havana is definitely somewhere where you can still find tons of value from Goats on any point. Orisa is also very popular for this first point, but Triumph potentially expecting Revival to run their own Goats-esque composition, which they indeed are showing with Apply picking up the Sombra this time around.
Decod swinging at the spawn door. He's looking for some blood. He's finally going to be able to taste some of it. He's gonna push in a little bit of damage. Got 8% on that Earth Shatter. That's some good progress, my friends. As Triumph and Revival still trying to figure out how they're going to play the spawn. Up close spawn camp / up close defense. It's not a camp until Revival loses a fight here. Let's see if Triumph are going to be able to, I think, assert their dominance so far against Revival, who are waiting for their EMP, and it's coming quickly.
Yeah, I was going to say, while Revival own a lot of ground, or Triumph own a lot of ground, Revival about to own a really great EMP here. Hardest also charging this grab very quickly. He's going to be able to beat out Lynx if things continue on in this path. So Triumph right now, they got to know that they're playing with borrowed time, and they're probably looking at a really one-sided fight come the next big engage, because Revival playing this very patiently. They know what their win condition is.
Too patiently, maybe, as we're at 2 minutes and 48 seconds, and Revival have not left spawn. Apply going to have to use the EMP, but doesn't hit anybody, I believe, other than Link. So Triumph is going to feel pretty good about that. That EMP was how they break out of the spawn camp, but as of right now, Triumph are going to be the unbreakable tail cell that Revival are stuck in right now as they're so very low. They're gonna have to go back into spawn to heal.
That was okay. That was a little bit awkward. Apply EMPing from behind the Reinhardt shield and catching only one member is not what we call value. Revival gotta go shop at Costco because they're taking a beating right at their own front doors, and that 2-3 minute time bank now whittling away.
We're at the 2-minute warning right now. Revival have not left spawn. Triumph coming up on their ultimates as well. The thing about this up-close hold is usually the attacking team can't develop those ultimates because of the positioning of the defensive side, but Revival wasting away that EMP, and you're seeing it here. Apply has not developed a second one, and we're getting close to 1.5 minutes, so he's only going to get 2 potentially in this first stage of Havana, and as of right now, just 2.27 meters of progress.
It's all going to depend on this shatter, but Decon presses the Q first. Boger coming up with a couple of big bodies here, but the kills are going Revival's way.
Self-destruct is in the back line, and the Reinhardt is stunned, but he's able to keep his shield up just in time. He's also going to get slept. The Nano Decon's going to do so much damage, but the Nano also goes on it to Boger, so this Ryan versus Ryan head-to-head goes Decon's way. His team was there for him, and progress not there for Revival. Apply resetting that EMP charge.
Revival just not finding these combos right now. They need these combos to land. Apply is not able to EMP the Triumph backline, so how are you going to find kills? EMP into grab, EMP into shatter, both of them coming up with goose eggs right now. And while Triumph only currently have a rally, Lynx does get hacked. He's going to have to wait to drop that grab, but Revival have no countermeasures.
Xana's got his back. Decon almost falling victim to awkward reload right there as Lynx is going to get the pick, and Icy going to eat the grab. Literally nothing going right for Revival at this current time, still at 2.27 meters. Apply needs to find something from this EMP. So far, he has not been very good at spotting the difference, finding what he needs to get. He finally doesn't do that. Boger going to get the Revivals, I think, first so far against Triumph. And now that they've gotten out of spawn, they've only got 10 seconds left.
Revival needed heroics from somebody on the team, and Apply supplied it this time around. 6-man EMP. They take down the main tank almost immediately. This is the kind of initiation that we needed to see from Revival, who have really been just fuffing about the entire time. Yeah, exactly, 3.5 minutes ago, because if they get point A, even if they get point A, it is going to be in overtime. And Triumph have Shatter, they have Grab, they have so many more tools than Revival do right now. And any one of them, a single pick, will probably spell doom for this push.
Apply is going to be forced to translocate away, and again, they're going to need an EMP to break through the Triumph. Holding up right now is Chop and Decon going to find 2 initial picks for Triumph. This should see it for Revival here as they struggle to come out of spawn. Did you ever watch American Gladiators back in the day, HamTornado?
I did not.
There was a event where a gladiator would be sitting between you and like a hoop that you would have to run past a gladiator and like put the ball in.
Oh.
Yeah, it seems like Triumph were every single gladiator on that show.
Just body checking you.
Yeah, body checking Apply in his EMP because he was unable to find a valuable one until his third go around. And, you know, that would be fine if you're, you know, a Jaru or someone else who's developing those EMPs so quickly, but that wasn't happening for Apply either.
No, and while you only need a single EMP, a good EMP to win a fight, not finding that 3 times in a row and not finding it when it's not just an EMP and then we just got to follow up the old-fashioned way. Not finding that when you have EMP into Grab, EMP into Shatter. These are some of the tried and true, nigh guaranteed combos that you come to rely on in Overwatch when you're running Somber Goats. And the fact that Revival wasn't able to string those together doesn't bode well for the teamwork they're exhibiting right now.
I mean, it's all about, it just seems like they need to go through those drills again, where you just shatter EMP. Maybe they can make something in the workshop, right? Like that's easy. Maybe they can make something in the workshop where, you know, EMP into shatter is what you do, and you get points for how many people you shatter / EMP. But they need to run these drills because those combos aren't coming naturally like we do see from some of our top tier teams. And honestly, you know, Envy played earlier today, and while they went through some growing pains themselves with 2 new players, they were pulling those things off. And so we know that a team like Revival can. It's all about actually performing when the game is getting played, right? It doesn't matter what you're doing in scrims. When you're actually playing the game like today, Apply needs to continue to do this. But when Apply was doing this, no one else on his team was doing anything. And so they need that teamwork to come through. Awkward going to get that first pool. I like Icy on the Hog a little bit better, just to put that out there. Triumph going to be spawn camped themselves. But we also have been still talking so negatively about Revival. Let's also talk about Triumph, because without them being confident, without them asserting themselves and taking advantage of their advantages, we wouldn't be in a position where Triumph only needs to go a very short distance to win this map to get the sweep.
What, 51 meters is Triumph's win condition right now, and they are going to swap things up. Gave the Bastion a go, but you got to know when the
or
Bastion
maybe this is what Havana is now.
Right? Maybe it's all about the spawn camp. And Apply, though, on this Widowmaker, you cannot sleep against him. Some of the worst fights Triumph have taken are when they get too confident. And when you're playing against a team that's holding so close, they have a ton of advantage in the angles that they can exploit. As the words leave my mouth, though, of course, Lynx picks up 2 immediately.
Civic is in the back line. He is going to pick up a kill with the Rocket Barrage. Almost gets the second one, but Samito is able to take the bird out of the sky. Triumph should be on their way here. They're actually behind in terms of ultimate economy, so Revival are going to have to cycle through theirs. Triumph know that in 2 fights, the one after this one, they will have a distinct advantage. Let's see what they use with this.
The unfortunate thing, though, is even when Transcendence comes online, it does not save you from burst damage, so Lynx and Samito can still land those headshots and take people down.
The payload is approaching the green box of victory. The hook does land onto Samito's. Kvik and Vogue are going to find themselves on it. The kill feed. That's 2 picks for Revival. 1 returning, though, from Icy. That's the man with the plan. If you're on Triumph right now, it is a 5v4, but it seems like Triumph has seen in this space, other than Decod going ahead and using the supercharger and then dying.
Interesting. We might be seeing some swaps coming around, because that is...
They lost their ultimate advantage.
Yeah, lost their ultimate advantage, lost their Mercy as well, who was kind of just hanging out, padding Eps's ultimate charge. So yes, we are going to see Decod pick up the Winston instead. And this is actually, again, not a terrible pick. They know Revival have used Whole Hog. They know that Supercharger is not online. So there's no Brigida, so what's to stop Decod from simply diving Revival and bringing the fight to them, which I think is the game plan we're about to see.
You hook Decod, that's definitely bringing the fight to you, but he's going to be discorded, and then he's going to be taken back. Apply, going to get that headshot when Apply is on. The rest of Revival doing a little bit better this time around as well. As Triumph, though, going to get a return kill onto Hardest, who is going to be res, so all kills now coming in from Triumph are going to be permanent, as Apply going to take Lynx out as well. His Widowmaker has been too hot to handle for Triumph so far. Self-destruct comes through, and Icy going to take the Zenyatta out of the equation, as Revival slowly but surely losing members. Apply doing his darndest. What a streaky day, by the way, Apply has had so far, but what hasn't been streaky has been Triumph dominating Revival on objectives, and that's exactly what we see throughout the series and here on Havana as they complete the clean sweep 4-0 over Revival.
Revival, ton of talent, just got to get all of those cogs and pistons working together as one whole machine. But their best looks was definitely their Moira Goats on Nimbani, so something to think about, although you can tell that this is a team that really wants to turn to more DPS-centric comps, and I definitely think that it's within their grasp. Right now, though, teamwork a little bit rough. You got to, find that balance, right? Is it more worth it to all 3 of you try and be individual heroes, or maybe pool some of your resources and make one of you the star? Sometimes you only need 1 star.
It's like it's kind of like they're the team embodiment of all of us who want to be DPS players, but we're actually best at support, right?
Yeah.
When we're on DPS, we think we're cool, we think we're good, but then we play support and we win for some reason.
Confirmation bias. Every time you hit a headshot, you're like, I'm a god. Forgetting all the
67 times
you completely whiffed and died.
Yeah, but again, Revival have the pieces. They have some of the pieces of, the one-loss Mayhem Academy last season. Remember, last season Mayhem Academy only lost the second wind, and that was a weird game for Mayhem Academy that day. That was, I think I said the words after Casket, we can't take Mayhem Academy like this game because it's so odd for them that we can't take too much proof out of this. And they have the pieces, but so far the puzzle has not been completed for Revival as they fall 0-4. But we've got an upcoming match for you, which most likely will decide our second seed for Contenders. I know we're a little ahead, but both of these teams only with one loss. We got Montreal Rebellion and XL2 coming up in 6 minutes.